Stinger GT, and Kia kindly lended me one for a week here as a press vehicle, and so I already did a full review on the Stinger GT, and you know, that was filmed back in the fall on the press drive, and that was just an entire day of driving, but I didn't get a chance to really feel what it's like to live with over a week, and so that's what you know, I was excited to have the press vehicle for, was to kind of see how a Stinger GT does in daily driving and through a week of living with it. And I am happy to report that it is just as glorious, if not even better, than how I felt about it in the fall. So in the fall, I mean, I was very, very emotional about just how good this car was, and it is still just amazingly good. But there is some really cool insight that I picked up over the week of driving it that I didn't, you know, wasn't able to pick up whenever I did my first review, you know, back then. So in my time of driving here over the course of the past week, I've already put 215 miles on it, and it's one of those cars that I just want to keep driving. I love driving it. A couple things to note, you know, from using it for a week here now, is the drive modes are really great, because like comfort mode, for example, can be a little bit lazy if you're not like in traffic or you're not just chilling. If you're in a little bit of a hurry or something, you're going to want to put it into sport or individual mode. The individual mode is really nice because if you're not in traffic, it makes the transmission usually hang out about 1 gear lower than it usually does, and so that's really nice. You can customize everything in that individual mode, so you can have it exactly how you want it, you know, with the enhanced engine sound, which I think is definitely louder than I remember from the press drive. So I think maybe the cars I was driving back then were maybe in normal mode. That enhancement is through the stereo, but this car just has such a great sound. It has this infinity, almost like a VQ burble to it that I absolutely love, but it even sounds a little more muscular than that, honestly. It's just such a good sound. I love hearing this thing. It's just, it's so good. Even with the stock exhaust, like I said, it's just a very, it feels a little more upmarket too. It's just a really refined and cool, powerful sound. And it's awesome with these turbos, because they do come on very early, but you do have a little bit of a delay, and then once they come on, or you get a downshift, then it really picks up, and man, this thing feels so good. A couple things that I did notice on the press drive that still stand are, you know, the brake pedal still has a little more travel than I would like, but honestly, I've really come to love the braking, the way that it feels. You know, you have a little bit of travel so that it's not super hypersensitive, you know, and you can modulate it very naturally. Throttle response is also sharper than I feel like it was in the fall, and that's something I think is kind of tied into the drive modes a little bit, because in this individual mode, the transmission is set up into the sport setting, and that makes this really responsive, and there is no lag really with the pedal. So that has been improved, or is something that feels better now than it did back then. But getting back to these drive modes, so you know, like right now I'm in individual mode, and it's a little too eager for sitting behind a Hyundai here. So you know, putting it back into the comfort mode is really great, because then it, you know, gets you the maximum efficiency, and it kind of relies on that torque a little bit more down low, and you know, it still will give you a downshift pretty quickly and still be just as quick, but it's just, you know, a little more relaxed, which is great whenever you're cruising behind people and you want to get, you know, the maximum efficiency, but then you put it over into that sport mode and it gets just as eager as you want it to get. And it's also nice because, you know, even though there is no dedicated manual mode in this 8-speed automatic that Kia has here, you know, if you just pull a paddle whenever you're, you know, behind someone or something, you want it, it immediately gives it to you, and you can drop down a couple of gears and it springs right into action. Then boom, you have your passing power, and then you can chill out and, you know, put it back into full automatic mode by holding the right paddle, and then, you know, you go back to just chilling. So it's really great. I love the driving modes. They're really well set up and really helps this car to suit whatever your mood is or whatever the circumstance really well. And although it was really fun to take this around Angela's crest in LA back in the fall, I'm on my own back roads here that I review all my cars on, really, and so I wanted to feel how the Stinger does on these corners. I'm not expecting it to let me down, but I've just noticed my week of driving, this thing, it has almost limitless handling. I mean, you can provoke, this is the all-wheel drive version, by the way, you can provoke the back end to step out a little bit, even with, you know, the rear bias all-wheel drive system, but it is just so flat. You do feel the weight a tiny bit, but it is amazing how good this tucks in, and oh, it's just so good. I am just so blown away. I don't know how they do it, honestly, because, I mean, these, in the all-wheel drive trim, these Stinger GTs weigh a little over 4,000 pounds. I think just barely over 4,000. But it doesn't feel that way. And I mean, even, you know, we've Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires, which are the best tires, I think, on the market currently. But they're only 225 wide up front, 255 in the rear here on the all-wheel drive version. But it's just amazing to me, even 225 wide Michelins, they just still stick so well. And it is just crazy. I mean, it's not limitless handling, but it feels very, very close. I mean, it is mind-blowing. I mean, I took it around some really tight on and off ramps on the highway and stuff at speed, and it's like, it almost makes me nervous, like, because I don't want to push it too much, but it's like, it's so friendly, it's so predictable, you know, but it really tempts you to just push it to unnaturally high levels, where it's like, man, I can't believe this is doing it. And the only vehicle that I think beats this that I've reviewed as far as four-door sedans go is the Alfa Romeo Giulia. I think that is still slightly a hair better, just because it feels a tiny bit lighter and the turn-in is a little bit quicker, but just because the steering ratio is quicker, so it requires less work at the steering wheel, and it's just a little lighter, so it's a little more effortless in the Alfa. But it is such a minute difference that I honestly want to call it a tie between this and the Alfa for best handling sedan that I've ever driven. It is just, I mean, it is staggering to me just how good this thing handles. And it is, I mean, the acceleration in this thing is nearly terrifying with how quick it is. It honestly, and I think, you know, I was driving it on a hot, you know, area in LA last year, and it didn't feel quite as fast as it does here, you know, on a cooler, you know, it's currently 71 degrees, and this thing with these turbos, I mean, it pulls so hard too. It feels way faster than 365 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. Way faster. You know, and I mean, there's videos of these drag racing Mustang GTs and keeping up with a new Mustang GT with 460 horsepower, and sometimes in a few instances actually beating it because of the all-wheel drive or the automatic. So I mean, you're talking, you know, really realistically going down the drag strip, this thing will keep up with a 460 horsepower vehicle, which should speak for itself. This thing is faster than the numbers claim. It handles way better than I think anyone you know, can predict or imagine. I mean, it is so good, and I really love this interior. This one has the dark brick red leather that I absolutely love. It kind of reminds me of my old Legacy GT Spec B that I used to own back 2006, 2007. But in the GT2 trim, you also get the adjustable bolstering. So these seats also hold you in exactly as tight or as loosely as you want while you're going around corners too, which I absolutely love. One other thing, though, talking about cornering that I noticed is I had never driven a Stinger GT at nighttime, so obviously I drove this plenty at night. And one cool thing is when you're going around corners, the headlights do kind of turn into the corners with you, and they do it pretty quickly, so it really nicely keeps up with your cornering at night, which is a really cool feature, and it's really well done. The headlights are excellent here in the Stinger GT at night. Another really cool night feature about the Stinger GT is the ambient lighting, which I never even knew it actually had, honestly, until I turned it on the first night, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. So it has the red accent lighting there that kind of lights up around the glove box area, and there's also around the map pocket area of the doors little lights that illuminate. And so it's, you know, not overkill, it's not quite as in your face as some of the other ambient lighting systems from other companies, but it's subtle and really good looking, and I really enjoyed that. Another thing I really enjoyed, though, was the stereo here in the Stinger GT. So it has the Harman Kardon stereo at 720 watts. I believe that's in the GT1 and GT2 trims. This one is the GT2, and that is, I mean, I still really am impressed by it. I mean, I was impressed by it back in the fall, but you know, listening to my own music through, you know, Apple CarPlay, and really just, you know, doing some highway cruising in it and stuff, I mean, it is such a nice stereo system. I mean, it is really sharp and clear, and just really powerful, you know, with lots of bass and everything, and so really a very well done stereo too. Another thing I want to mention for my week of driving is my fuel economy. So these are rated at 19 in the city, 25 on the highway, and in my real world driving, I got 21 mpg exactly, actually, over 223 miles now of driving, and so that was a pretty good mix of city and highway. I would say about 50-50, so, you know, I think that's really right in line with a combined rating, you know, at 21, so very solid. again, I wasn't driving this thing slowly most of the time, and I was, getting on it, having fun, and to still return 21 mpg in a 4,000 pound, hatchback 4-door luxury sedan with all this power is really pretty good to me. So you might be wondering, is there anything bad about the Stinger GT? And there were two little things throughout the course of the week that I noticed. The first is rearward visibility isn't great. It's certainly, I bet, what you would expect for, a normal coupe, like my Mustang has pretty similar rear visibility, but, you do have those pretty fairly chunky seat pillars. So, looking, backing out of parking spots and things like that isn't quite as easy as it is in a regular sedan or, an SUV or something like that, but it's really not bad, easy to get used to. Of course, you have the backup camera, all the sensors, all that type of stuff. So certainly nothing that I would personally, find as objectionable, but just, a little more challenging than, you might be used to in some other vehicles. And then the other thing is this one, I'm pretty sure is still pretty early production vehicle. It has only about 6,000 miles on it, but I did notice whenever you first start driving it in the morning, before it gets warmed up and stuff, it is a tiny bit creaky, and that kind of goes away after that. So I don't know if, again, that's just this one, because I noticed when I was doing the press drive back in the fall, that didn't have any creaks or rattles or anything. This doesn't have any rattles, just a little bit creaky sometimes, but again, only whenever you first really start driving it. Now that it's warmed up and I've been driving around for a little bit, that all goes away. Another thing is the seat. So obviously press vehicles usually live harder lives than privately owned vehicles do, but I did notice the leather on the seat bolster here when you're getting into the vehicle hasn't worn the best. Again, after only 6,000 miles, and the vehicle probably only being about a year old or so. So that's another thing that, again, this could be because it's a pre-production one, might not be finalized, and I don't know if that's just because of the Nappa leather. If you go for the GT1, you still get leather, but it's not the Nappa leather. Maybe those have different qualities. I'm not sure, but just something, that's worth noting, but again, would not stop me at all from owning one of these. And that brings me to my final point here, which is just how much I love the Stinger GT. There's a lot of people that ask me, I want a fun all-wheel drive 4-door, it's versatile and stuff, what should I get? Stinger GT. There's your recommendation. I honestly, whenever I eventually do need a 4-door car, whenever I have a family someday, probably this is probably going to be one of the vehicles on at the top of my list. Honestly, it's a very short list of vehicles. I've been compiling over the years that out of all my experiences of vehicles that I would actually want to own. The Stinger GT is a vehicle I actually want to own, and once I need 4 doors, probably will be my choice. Again, not gonna say 100% definitely, but that is just how much I love it, and that's about the highest endorsement I can give this vehicle. Everything about it is just so good. It's just so easy too. Like, for example, the Giulia Alfa Romeo, still a really fun car, and also a very tempting car to own, but even though the Giulia might have a slight better advantage in handling that's minute, you get so many better things, I think, in the Stinger to outweigh that tiny little less handling ability. For example, this touchscreen infotainment system is miles easier to use than the little screen you have in the Giulia. It's not super hard in the Giulia. If you're used to German stuff with the controller wheels, it's fine. I just personally hate the controller wheels, and so having this just be touchscreen, having Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, to me that is certainly preferable over what the Alpha offers. Other things too, you have a 10-year warranty with the Kia. You have very high Kia reliability and initial quality ratings and stuff. They were actually #1 in initial quality, I think, or #2. I think Genesis was #1. But it's at the top of the pack as far as reliability and quality goes. And so the Alpha might be better if you're a little less risk averse and you don't mind taking a chance. But I think if you want something that you don't have to worry about, that when you get out in the morning and start it up and drive it, you're not gonna have any issues, and still have 99.9% of the same handling as the Alpha, I think it certainly tips the scales in favor of the Stinger. And so there's lots of great options, and there's great, you know, different vehicles for different people and what they want. So I'm not saying this is going to be the perfect car for everyone, but I think if you drive one of these, you will love it. I don't see how you couldn't, honestly. And so, yeah, I absolutely love them. And, you know, they're also, it's great that they are affordable too. I mean, this one is, you know, fully loaded GT2 with all-wheel drive. So this one's around $52,000. But honestly, I could see myself even being fine with the GT1. You still get the Harman Kardon stereo. You just don't get the heads-up display or the safety tech, and you don't get the adjustable bolstering for the seats, and the gear shifter is a little bit not as nice. It's a little bit taller. And that's basically it. Otherwise, it's the same stuff. I think the leather, like I said, isn't the Nappa leather. It's just the regular leather, but still very nice leather. And so, you know, and those I think are like $46,000 new, and that's not before any kind of, you know, manufacturer discounts or dealer discounts or anything like that. So I mean, I feel like this, you know, you can put it and still get a very, very nice vehicle, and still put it in a very affordable range for a lot of people. You know, probably in the mid to even low 40s potentially. So you know, it's a heck of a car, and so I really hope that these continue to sell well and do well for Kia, so they keep making them, because it is definitely one of the most underrated cars out there that, I mean, you know, has been praised by a lot of journalists, including myself, but you know, definitely is worth owning, worth buying. You know, don't let the Kia badge discourage you, don't let anything like that bother you. I mean, once you drive this, you'll forget about all that stuff. It really is impressive. So anyway, huge thanks once again to Kia for providing me with the Stinger GT here to review for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts on the Stinger GT in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.